This week, Canadians will honour our 18th Prime Minister, Brian Mulroney, who passed away last month at the age of 84. There will be a lying in state in Ottawa this Tuesday and Wednesday, followed by a lying in repose in Montreal the following days to allow people to pay their respects. A state funeral will then be held on Saturday in Montreal. Eulogies will be given by Mulroney's daughter, Caroline, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, former politician and CEO of Quebecor, Pierre-Karl Péladeau, hockey legend Wayne Gretzky, former U.S. Secretary of State James Baker, and former Quebec Premier Jean Charest. Since Mulroney's passing, many have reflected on his political legacy, which includes his work on free trade between Canada and the U.S., his introduction of the GST, and his public denunciation of apartheid in South Africa. But there's also, of course, a personal side connected to his consequential political career. Mulroney is survived by his wife of 50 years, Mila, and their 4 children, Ben, Caroline, Mark, and Nicholas. Mark Mulroney is with us now. Hi, Mark. Very good to see you. I wish it were under different circumstances, but I appreciate you making the time.
Vashti, thank you so much for having me.
I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of our viewers, and I know the staff of this show, in first just offering our condolences to you and your entire family for your loss. I just want to start off by asking how you're doing.
Thank you. Obviously, I think you always believe you can be a little bit prepared for these types of situations, but when you lose somebody like we did recently, somebody so important to the family, I don't think you're ever really ready to see somebody that you love leave. And so to say it's difficult, I think that would be an understatement. Mm-hmm. But I think I speak for my mom, my siblings, our entire family when I say the outpouring of support has just been unbelievable. And to the thousands of Canadians who have reached out, who have taken a moment to write, even people from outside of the country, it's been truly one of the most beautiful things we've seen, and we thank everybody profusely.
What has that been like? I mean, it's one thing to lose your dad. It's another thing for an entire country, essentially, to talk about what he meant to them and to say how much he did mean to them. What has that been like for you?
I think it's interesting because he spoke pretty constructively over time about how he was always doing things not for today but for the future. Mm-hmm. And we're starting to see a little bit more of those green shoots sort of pop out about, who he was as a person and why he made all the strides that he did to kind of get the country to where he thought it should be. As we kind of see this outpouring, we just kind of, we hear the stories. I think the number one thing we keep hearing is the phone calls my dad made when no one was listening. He regularly reached out to people in their darkest moment. He showed sympathy, empathy, all of those things. And, this wasn't one person or 5 people. I don't even know how he found the time for this. And he was regularly just working the phone, speaking to people, making sure they were okay. And to be clear, this wasn't something that started in 1983 and ended in 1993. I got a phone call from somebody recently who said he called my mom in 1981, and I got a phone call that said that your dad called me the day before he passed away. So, for us, that's the beauty of everything that he brought to the table, but also what made him such a wonderful person and why we were all so lucky to be around him while we were.
I'm sure you were aware growing up and into adulthood of the impact that your dad had and the number of people who, were in contact in some way. But did you have any idea of the scope? You're talking a bit about, people calling you when he called them. Like, I feel like myself, even listening over the past number of weeks to the sheer number of people who said, I received a call when my brother died, or when I got divorced, or when I lost an election. Like, did you have any idea of the scope of that until now?
It's funny, I thought I knew him maybe, obviously my mom knew him best, but I thought I knew him pretty well. I would say that it's impossible for me to comprehend the scope. The bandwidth this man must have had, because he never made any of his siblings or my mom feel as if he wasn't paying attention to them or that he was skirting some type of responsibility as a parent. He was always there. He always made you feel special, and yet there are all these people that he reached out to or that he encountered, and he made them feel just as special. That is just, it's one of the gifts of him being as amazing as he was.
Is it difficult at all that you share and shared him with so many people, or is it comforting?
That's actually, we talked about things that we've learned through this process. Obviously, talking about people and who's reached out and how many people have reached out that said that Dad has done stuff. The second point, I think, would be just to say that people say it must be tough to grieve in public, or you've had to share him, but we never felt that way. In my case, I was 4 to 14 when we lived in Ottawa, and I was able to kind of grow up in public. All the while, my parents kept us so tightly knit. We had dinner all the time. I guess I had a fairly normal upbringing, minus the bodyguards, who were also very awesome, don't get me wrong, but I got to play hockey, they tried to attend, we got to do all these things together, and yet it just so happened that my parents were in politics and my dad was Prime Minister. So when people say you had to share him or this is tough, this has been the way it's always been. All the while, we found a way to kind of keep this family unit extremely tightly knit.
You have a number of kids now, and as you're reflecting on your childhood and your upbringing with your dad, how do you think he ensured that normalcy that you refer to?
It's funny. Yes, I do have a few. I got 5. We have 5 now, Vanessa and I. But I would say that the key is that he wasn't always there, but he was always present. And when he was there, he was present. And we try to kind of work that way as well, because life can get busy. But the days are long and the years are short. So we have to make sure we make that effort. And my mom and dad always made an extreme effort to be there for us. I can remember when we were kids, I would just pick up the phone and call my dad. Now I hear stories that I was interrupting cabinet meetings or G7 meetings. So to that end, they never ever put their kids on a back burner, and they always kind of made us feel special. I would say the true legacy now is, like, we talk about his political legacy, we talk about family legacy, but really the legacy are the 16 grandkids that are out there, and that that I would say all are missing their grandfather, their papa, and hoping that the big bin of jelly beans that sat in his den when we were growing up, but then when they were growing up, doesn't go dry.
And just before I let you go, Mark, next week there will be tens of thousands of Canadians thinking about your dad, remembering him. There's a lot of things going on, and including, of course, the funeral. What are your thoughts heading into that week?
I would say, a small story. I won't ramble on, but I'll say we were driving to Ottawa to greet my dad and my mom and my brother as they returned, and we stopped at an en route, and we stopped for coffee, Caroline, Nick, and I, and we saw the flags, and we actually just stopped in our tracks. It was one of the most beautiful things we've seen, and it says a lot about the country and how the country is also mourning. And I would say we couldn't be more thankful for the outpour, as I said earlier, but all the while we know that this will be a difficult week, not just for us, but for a lot of other people, and we're thankful for people who take the time to come see us when we're going to be out in Ottawa or Montreal or even at the funeral, because this is all in the name of a wonderful man that many people knew in different ways, but we knew as an unbelievable father.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time today to have this conversation and share your memories, and we're thinking of all of you throughout the next week. Thank you so much, Mark.
Vashi, thank you so much from my family and myself.